That dog is not coming in here. I don't care what that silly vest says. It's a pet, and pets are not allowed. End of story. Sarah felt her heart sink. She stood in the doorway of what was supposed to be her new apartment, a small, hopeful smile fading from her face. Beside her, Max, her golden retriever service dog, sat calmly, his head tilted as if sensing her distress. "Mr. Henderson," Sarah began, her voice soft but steady. "He's not a pet, he's my service animal. I have all the paperwork." She clutched a neat folder in her hand. Mr. Henderson, the landlord, was a stout man with a permanently grumpy expression. He folded his arms across his chest, blocking the entrance. "Paperwork can be faked. I know the tricks. People try to sneak their pets in all the time, calling them emotional support, squirrels or whatever nonsense. Not in my building." Sarah took a slow breath. This was not how she imagined moving day would go. After weeks of searching, this apartment had felt like a blessing. It was close to the park where Max loved to walk, and near the support group she attended. She was a veteran, and Max helped her with the invisible wounds war had left behind. He was trained to help her with her anxiety and PTSD. Without him, daily life was a struggle. "Sir, he's a fully trained service animal under the Americans with Disabilities Act," Sarah explained, trying to keep the tremor out of her voice. "It's my legal right to have him with me. He's trained to help with my disability." Henderson scoffed. "Disability? You look fine to me, just another person trying to bend the rules." He squinted at Max. "And he's going to shed everywhere. Make a mess. No." The answer is no. Sarah felt a familiar tightness in her chest. This was the kind of confrontation that could send her spiraling. Max, ever attuned to her, nudged her hand gently with his nose. His warm presence was a comfort. She looked down at him, then back at the unyielding landlord. "Please, Mr. Henderson," she said, her voice a little more pleading than she liked. "I really need this apartment, and Max needs to be with me. He's very well behaved. You won't even know he's here." "Oh, I'll know," Henderson retorted, his voice rising. "I'll smell him. I'll hear him. And then all the other tenants will want to bring their dogs and cats and whatever else. This is a no-pets building. That means no dogs, no matter what fancy lies you tell." He jabbed a finger towards her folder. "I don't care about your papers. They mean nothing to me. If you believe people with service animals deserve respect, type respect in the comments below." Sarah felt a flush of anger, but she pushed it down. She had learned long ago that anger didn't solve problems like this. She needed to stay calm, for her own sake and for Max. She remembered her training, the discipline that had seen her through far worse situations than a stubborn landlord. "Mr. Henderson, I assure you, this is not a lie," she said, trying to keep her tone even. "There are laws that protect my right to have him. Perhaps you could look them up." This seemed to enrage him further. "Are you telling me how to do my job? Are you threatening me with lawyers? I've been managing properties for 30 years, young lady. I know what's what." His face was getting red. "You can either take the apartment without the dog, or you can find somewhere else to live. Those are your choices." He then added, "And if you try to sneak him in, I'll evict you so fast your head will spin, and I'll keep your deposit." Sarah felt defeated. Tears pricked at her eyes, but she blinked them back. She wouldn't give him the satisfaction of seeing her cry. She looked at Max, who whined softly, pressing closer to her leg. He knew. He always knew when she was upset. She thought about her options. Walking away meant starting the stressful apartment search all over again. It meant more nights in the temporary housing that wasn't good for her anxiety. But arguing with this man was clearly pointless. He wasn't listening. He wasn't willing to understand. Then she remembered something. A small, laminated card in her wallet. It had been given to her at a veteran outreach program. On it was a phone number for housing advocacy, specifically for veterans facing issues like this. She hadn't thought she would ever need it. With a new sense of resolve, Sarah stepped back a few paces from the doorway. "Excuse me for a moment," she said to Henderson, who just grunted in response, clearly thinking she was giving up. She turned her back to him, pulling out her phone and the small card. Her fingers trembled slightly as she dialed the number. Max sat patiently at her feet, a silent, furry guardian. A calm voice answered on the other end. "Veterans Housing Support, how can I help you?" Sarah explained her situation in a low voice, trying not to let Henderson overhear, though he was now busy looking at his watch impatiently. She described the landlord's refusal, her service animal, and her legal rights. She gave her name and the address of the building. The person on the phone listened carefully. "Ma'am, you are absolutely in the right. A landlord cannot refuse a legitimate service animal. That is discrimination. We have a field officer from the City Housing Authority who is actually very close to that area right now. Can you stay put for about 10 to 15 minutes? Yes, Sarah whispered, a wave of relief washing over her. Yes, I can. Good. They will be there shortly. Just try to remain calm. We will help you. Sarah hung up the phone, her heart beating a little faster, but this time with hope, not despair. She turned back to face Mr. Henderson, who was tapping his foot. Well, made your decision? He asked, a smug look on his face. Dog stays out, or you stay out. Sarah took a deep breath. I'll wait, if you don't mind, she said, her voice surprisingly firm. Henderson looked annoyed. Wait for what? I haven't got all day. It won't be long, Sarah said. She moved to the side of the hallway, out of the direct doorway, and leaned against the wall. Max settled down beside her, resting his head on her feet. The next 8 minutes felt like an eternity. Henderson huffed and puffed, occasionally glaring at her. He made a show of looking at his phone, then pacing a little. Sarah focused on her breathing, trying to stay centered. She stroked Max's soft ears, drawing strength from his steady presence. What would you do if you were in Sarah's shoes? Let us know in the comments. Suddenly, the elevator at the end of the hall dinged, the doors opened, and 2 people stepped out. A woman in a smart business suit carrying a briefcase, and a man in a more official-looking windbreaker with City Housing Authority printed on the back. They looked serious and purposeful. They walked directly towards Sarah and Mr. Henderson. Henderson stopped his pacing. His smug expression faltered, replaced by a look of surprise and then dawning unease. Can I help you? He asked, his voice losing some of its earlier bluster. The woman spoke first. Are you Mr. Henderson, the landlord of this property? Her voice was polite but firm. Yes, I am, he said, looking from her to the man beside her. What's this about? My name is Ms. Evans, and this is Mr. Ramirez, the woman said, holding up an identification badge. We're from the City Housing Authority. We received a call regarding a fair housing complaint at this address, specifically concerning the denial of a service animal. Mr. Henderson's face went pale. He looked from Ms. Evans to Sarah, then back again. A complaint? There must be some mistake. Is this the tenant you were speaking with? Ms. Evans asked, gesturing towards Sarah. Well, yes, but she was trying to bring a pet into a no-pets building, Henderson stammered, his confidence rapidly deflating. Ms. Evans turned to Sarah with a kind smile. Ma'am, would you mind showing us the documentation for your service animal? Sarah nodded, relieved. She opened her folder and handed over Max's certification, his training records, and a letter from her doctor explaining her need for a service animal due to her PTSD. Ms. Evans and Mr. Ramirez reviewed the documents carefully. Mr. Ramirez nodded. Everything seems to be perfectly in order here, Ms. Evans. Ms. Evans looked sternly at Mr. Henderson. Sir, service animals are not pets. Under federal and state law, individuals with disabilities have the right to be accompanied by their service animals in housing, even in buildings with a no-pets policy. Refusing to make a reasonable accommodation for a person with a disability and their service animal is a violation of the Fair Housing Act. Henderson started to sputter. But how was I to know? It looks like a regular dog. She didn't look disabled. Sir, Mr. Ramirez interjected, his voice calm but carrying authority. It is not your place to determine if someone looks disabled. It is your responsibility to understand and comply with the law. This tenant provided you with information, and you refused to consider it. The color had completely drained from Henderson's face. He looked like a balloon that had suddenly lost all its air. I didn't mean to cause any trouble. Nevertheless, you have, Ms. Evans said sharply. You have caused this veteran significant distress and have illegally denied her housing rights. She turned to Sarah. Ma'am, on behalf of the city, I apologize for the treatment you've received. You have every right to move into this apartment with Max. She then looked back at Henderson. You will give this tenant her keys immediately. And Mr. Henderson, you will be receiving an official notice of violation from our office. This will likely include a substantial fine for discrimination. and you will be required to attend mandatory fair housing training. Henderson visibly gulped. A fine? Training? Consider yourself lucky it's not more severe for a first documented offense. Mr. Ramirez added, We take these violations very seriously. Your license to operate rental properties could be at risk if this happens again. Henderson, now thoroughly cowed, fumbled in his pocket and produced a set of keys. He practically thrust them at Sarah, muttering a barely audible, "Sorry." "I believe a more sincere apology is in order, Mr. Henderson," Ms. Evans said, her gaze unwavering. He looked at Sarah, his eyes shifty. I apologize, ma'am. I was wrong. You can have the apartment." Sarah accepted the keys. "Thank you," she said, her voice clear. She felt a sense of vindication, but also a quiet sadness that it had to come to this. Ms. Evans gave Sarah a reassuring smile. "If you have any further issues, please do not hesitate to contact us directly. Here is my card." Sarah thanked Ms. Evans and Mr. Ramirez. They nodded, gave Henderson one last stern look, and then headed back towards the elevator. As soon as they were gone, Sarah unlocked the door to her new apartment. Max trotted in happily, wagging his tail, and immediately went to the window to look out. Sarah followed him, a real smile finally gracing her lips. The apartment was small, but it was hers, and Max was with her. She felt a profound sense of gratitude for the people who had helped her, and a renewed sense of her own strength. She had stood up for her rights, and justice had been served. Word of what happened spread quietly through the building. Some tenants who had witnessed Mr. Henderson's earlier behavior came by to apologize for not speaking up and to welcome her. The incident served as a stark reminder to Henderson, who was reportedly much more careful and respectful in his dealings afterward, especially concerning tenants' rights. Sarah and Max settled into their new life. The park was indeed lovely, and her support group was just a short walk away. Max continued to be her steadfast companion, helping her navigate the ups and downs of daily life. She never forgot the day she almost lost her home because of ignorance, but she also never forgot the swift justice that followed her call for help. It's a reminder that we should not judge people by how they look or make assumptions about their needs, and it shows that when good people stand up against unfairness, things can change for the better. If you believe that veterans and all people with disabilities deserve to be treated with dignity and respect, please share this story. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories where the right thing wins in the end. What does Max's loyalty mean to Sarah? It means everything.